Hey everybody, welcome back to Crushing. I'm sitting down with Violet Reed today. This is the second interview of the series Crushing is doing in collaboration with Withitgirl. Violet is a big part of the Withitgirl team. She's a passionate skater, and you have your own zine. You can chime in on that. Called
Zine.
Bucky Fan Zine. So Violet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I have a zine. I surf, I skate. I've been part of the Withitgirl team since 2020. And yeah, it's super awesome. And I'm kind of around. I go and see a lot of live music, and yeah, I'm just just everywhere. So
Okay. So how old are you right now?
I'm 17.
You're 17. Okay, cool. God, sweet 17. I loved 17. It was so fun. So where are you living now, and where did you grow up?
So currently I'm really lucky. I live in the same house that I was born near, and I live in El Cerrito, California, about 15 minutes away from Berkeley, and 25 minutes on a good day from San Francisco. So yeah, I live in the Bay Area, and unfortunately I'm an hour from the water, so it's a bit difficult to surf, but we make it work. So
Okay, and do you go to high school there too?
I'm currently a senior, and I'm really excited to graduate. Excited to be out.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
I can't wait. It's been a rough ride, so.
Good for you. So how did you first get involved with Withitgirl?
So back when Withitgirl was in its first era in the 90s, my dad had a clothing brand at the exact same time in San Francisco, California. And my dad and Molly, the founder of Withitgirl, were friends, and my dad helped Molly out some with different stuff, starting up Withitgirl, and so they've remained friends over the years. And when Molly wanted to start Withitgirl back up again, Molly reached out to my dad and was like, I have an opportunity, and I'm wondering if Violet and maybe a friend of hers want to get involved in this super cool opportunity. And we dove right in. And it's been a really awesome, amazing experience. And me and my friend Ula and my sister Stella a little bit all worked with Molly and a team of a bunch of other girls to put out content and just, groove together as a team. It was super cool.
Okay, right on. That's so cool how it's like kind of transferred from generation to generation, right?
Yeah, super awesome. It's just been a really cool opportunity. It's cool to see Withitgirl grow, and also change from its like original like grassroots down, and how it's kind of evolved and evolved into something super duper cool and collaborative and inclusive. It's really awesome.
So your latest project was starting your own zine. So how'd you get there, and was Withitgirl sort of a jumping off point for that?
Well, so I started my zine in 2020, and I've come out with 4 different issues now. I'm really slow. I'm pumping them out, but it's gone through a couple name changes, So currently it's at Bucky Fanzine. Um, and I just released a new zine about 2 months ago. On surfing and traveling. And Withitgirl, I kind of got involved with Withitgirl at a very interesting time in my life where I was kind of figuring out what I was interested in, and seeing a bunch of other people that were involved in art did inspire me to a certain extent, but also my friends who had zines in other places in the Bay Area and even across the country, who I ended up connecting with after starting my social media account for it, really did shape and kind of push me to actually work on zines more. But Withitgirl and my zine are, interconnected. And while I didn't start my zine because of Withitgirl, Withitgirl has been a huge help, and Molly has been a huge help in promoting, but also giving me ideas and connections for my platform. So.
Okay, gotcha. So is it zine because it's like that's the end of the word magazine? Like, because I've heard people say zine too. And I never know, like, whenever I see the word, I never know how to say it. But, like, do you have a take on it?
So, it is. It's like zine, like the end of magazine. And zines were actually started at the end of, like, the Harlem Renaissance. And so there's a huge history behind it, which I haven't done enough research into, but it's a super interesting, very long history. So I'm not exactly sure how it got its exact name, but how everyone I know pronounces it as zine, but both work. I understand what you're saying when you say zine. So there's no real right way to say it, but yeah, I just pronounce it zine. Like the end of magazine.
Okay, cool. No, that's just like something I've always wondered about. So, yeah, I don't know, like, I feel like also I know a lot of people who don't know how to say the word too. So it's definitely interesting to think about the history of it. Well, thanks for that awesome introduction, Violet. I think before we really get into things here, I want to listen to some music. Let's hear your first one, Number One by Colleen Green. I'm gonna play this one for you guys. Great. So you just heard Number One by Colleen Green. Violet, can you tell us a little bit about that one?
That's a song that I don't have as much backstory for, but I found it in 2019 or something like that. And I don't listen to a ton of her music, but it's a really cute short album that she made, which are like love songs, but also kind of just sweet. And it kind of also reminds me of Best Coast, the band. And I don't know, it's just like a sweet sort of feel good song.
Yeah, it's super sweet. I've actually never heard it before, and I'm definitely like that's going right on my like songs. It's super cute. So I guess this is a perfect segue into the crushing segment of things. So as you know, this show is about crushes as a lens for self-discovery. And so I have to ask you the question I ask everyone: what's one crush that's helped you learn about yourself? And of course, like while the song was cute and romantic, this question is what you make of it. So it could be a friend, it can be a thing or a hobby or an art or an activity that you fell in love with. It could be a celebrity. What do you got for me, Violet?
I've never been a super romantic person. So I wouldn't be able to name off any big romantic crushes that I know some people like can with like being able to throw their life in but I will say that I think that I depending on the time of my life that I'm in, I see certain people that I surround myself with as like artistic crushes in the way that I'm heavily inspired by them.
For sure.
And I could say that for like the people that I read their one of the biggest ones I'd have to say currently was I got this job in Berkeley working at a record store in 2021, and near the record store is this bookstore, a super cool bookstore called Pegasus Books. And I walk there on my break, and I'd go and buy a ton of zines. I'd buy like my whole paycheck of zines, and I'd read them, and I would like consume the stories, and I would underline the pages and highlight certain stuff, which helped me come up with a lot of content for my own zines I was writing. And I started carrying a journal because it reminded me of this one writer that wrote this zine that I was super inspired by. I would have to say the art around me and the people around me and the people that I read about are probably my biggest like crushes. And I think it's just super interesting. And I like the way of I like the way that you're using crush not as just as a romantic way, but also as like thinking about it in kind of a bigger sense. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, like crushes are really passions, and I think like you can crush on a person, but you can also absolutely crush on a thing. Like you can be totally infatuated with something, and I feel like that moment that you described of like taking that paycheck and like rushing to go and like buy the different zines and check out the bookstore, like that's like, yeah, like that's what stoke is. Like that's what passion is. It's like sometimes I feel like creativity comes at the moment where you just like it just has to come out. Like you have to take action. Like sometimes I'll be like, oh, I have to collage, or like I have to go surf. Like you said, like I have to go and check out these zines. Like it's like this like, I don't know, this compelling force sometimes. And I feel like that moment that you described really gets at it.
Yeah, I think something that like sticks with me is for this is my mom has told me in the past that she would have like a crush at school or something, and it would really be something that would just help her get out of bed and look nice for school, and how it was just such a big motivator to have such a silly crush, but at the same time it means so much to you. And I think, yeah, like in a bigger way, I think it's a very interesting phenomena that we have.
Yeah, that's so, I love what you said, like, about what your mom said about getting out of bed. Like, yeah, like, I feel that way about romantic crushes, but I also feel that way about so many other things. Like, I have a blog and I really like writing personal essays, and sometimes I'll be asleep at night, or like I can't really fall asleep. I'm in and out of sleep, and then I just have an idea and I have to write. Like, it's like just like that innate urge to do something about it. And yeah, like it could be like, I don't know, like if I have a crush on a guy, like I'm excited about, like, I'm gonna like wear something cute, or like even like, I don't know, just people I think are awesome. Like I get so excited around them, and I think it's that same thing. I think you're right on there.
Yeah, no, I think it's so interesting. I have the exact same thing um with, like, I'm like, oh my god, I've never been somebody who like is really into journaling, like writing tons of stuff. My mom, again, my mom is really into journaling. She writes like 5 pages every morning, and it helps her like cleanse through stuff. But I when I first started carrying like a journal more as like a documentation thing, that I did like collaging in it, and if I would find a piece of trash on the street that I liked, and I'd like glue it in there, or like a receipt that had like a funny total at the end. Sometimes I glue that in there, and I think it's really interesting. Yeah, it definitely motivated me um, to work like more creatively, because it was like, oh my god, what am I gonna put? How am I gonna fill up this next page? Um, and I think journals are so awesome. Uh, they're kind of the best.
Yeah, it's like, what am I gonna do with all this blank space? Well, I better get creative. I better think of something. Like, I need inspiration. Yeah.
No, I use a lot of
Um,
the stuff that I write down in my journal, in my zine. So yeah.
yeah, I'm a big journaler too. I just like, or like even like sometimes the notes app on my phone, I just have ideas, or like sometimes my friends say something I think is really funny, and then I write it down immediately so I can have it, so I don't forget it. And then I feel like those are the ideas that I end up applying in greater projects. So I totally relate. Um, so I know we talked a little bit about zines, but I feel like, I don't know, I feel like being creative can also be like a, like you're like moving your body. Like, I don't know, I feel like surfing is really expressive, and I think skating is probably really expressive in that same way. So can you touch on that? Like, what do you think is creative about skating? And like, do you feel like because you're somebody who likes zines and journaling and like that kind of creativity, do you think there's any overlap between that and like your interest in skate culture?
Um, I uh, I'm not somebody who like um feels each like paddle I take in the water and I feel it through my body, but um and I it's not something like I channel, but um I think the waves and water and skate parks and people that are in that sort of culture and surrounded in that are completely fascinating. And I I think that I do a lot of photography, um, and I'm going to go to school for photojournalism. And I love to photograph the water. I love to videotape other people in the water, um, and how people interact with it. And I think that it's a huge source of inspiration for me. in like the way that like the culture that surrounds surfing and skating and a lot of the people that I've met in both of those areas um, have influenced me a ton um, in artistic ways um, and even just in my own personal like for my personality um, and I don't know I think it's super interesting um, and
Mm-hmm.
like really awesome definitely.
Do you feel like there are I don't know, sometimes I feel like there's a lot of really cool people who are artistic minded and kind of like see eye to eye with me who surf and skate. Like, do you feel like there's a reason why that's true? Because that's off like that's kind of sometimes that's something that I wonder a lot is like why are people who are compelled to do these activities like also really creative minded? Like, why do we get along? Like, do you feel like there's a reason?
I want to say I wish I could say there's this huge big interconnectivity, but um, I think that a lot of it is just luck. Like sometimes I'll meet some really sucky surfer, and other times I'll meet like this huge group of really awesome surfers. Back in last summer, I was surfing with my two friends at sunset. And we come across this really great group of people. And we surfed with them for about 2 hours, and there was about 10 of us in all, and it was like a really like sweet, like under the moon glass off session. Um, and I don't know, I think it's kind of just luck, depending on who you meet and depending on where you are. Um, like I've been down to SoCal and I've surfed Redondo and the people there I didn't really connect with, but I think it just depends on the surf spot and or the skate spot too. Sometimes I'll go skating and nobody we don't I don't talk to anyone, and other times I'll be skating with my friend that I go skating with a lot, and um, we'll meet a ton of great people and we'll have a really great skate session and maybe we'll get food afterwards or even hang out longer. And I think it's really just I think it's just luck of the draw depending on who you meet. But I think a lot of alternative cultures draw a lot of really interesting people, and so I go to a lot of shows and I meet so many interesting people there. And I think people that are interested in culture that is separate is like things that you can do um, with not a ton of money, but they draw a ton of really amazing people because you could do them without a lot of resources, and so I think it draws a huge wide variety of people in general. I think that was a really weird answer, it's kind of sporadic all
No,
over the place,
I
but
think I really I know
yeah,
what
I
you're
don't know.
saying.
It's really
I
interesting.
think this concept of like counter like I guess like alternative culture is really important because I feel like a lot of the people who are drawn to these subcultures like are pushing back against the hegemonic culture. Like they're pushing back against like I guess the typical American culture that's like telling you to act a certain way and think a certain way, right? Like there's and like that's really at the roots of like surf and skate culture historically is like that it's different than the status quo. So yes, like I think you're really spot on there. And then I also think what you said about like, you know, like oftentimes these spaces like aren't very cost prohibitive. I think like of course like surfing can be expensive if one like if you don't like live close to a beach or like if you don't have a surfboard and like I mean obviously like skateboarding requires a skateboard, but I really think that there are ways, you know, to acquire a skateboard like and like you posted an article about this on Withitgirl about how you basically like I don't know, you like you designed a skateboard with like used materials, right? So like it's not like that cost prohibitive at the end of the day. So I think what you're saying about like making art and existing in these spaces about how like a lot of people can participate in it, like I think that's really true. And so yeah, then like what does it say about the
Yeah,
values of those spaces if they're super inclusive, right? because then maybe it's drawing people who believe in that sort of
Mm-hmm.
ideology to them.
Yeah, I think that spaces that don't have a ton of diversity have a lot less creativity and you know, really like very intensely creative minds. And while surfing definitely is a sport um, that does cost more money, it's definitely something. It's a huge community, and same with skating. Skating is like a community. I'd say rather. I don't know. It is a sport, but at the same time, I feel like it's just a large community. Same with like a lot of alternative and fringe culture. They're like big, large communities. I mean, of course, there's different groups, but you're together as one. And um, I think that like even if you're not into surfing, there's always going to be somebody who's like, I can loan you a board, or um, there's like eBay and again, like you're saying with the skate deck, like skate decks are expensive, but you know, if you go to a skate park and you're talking to somebody, you're like, yeah, I don't have a board. There's going to be somebody there who's like, I have an old board in my garage and I could totally give it to you. Um, and then if you get really into it, you can like save up for a board or something. But yeah, it's
Right.
really, it's like a community thing. And I think that, yeah.
Yeah, I think like the essence of like sort of like sharing the stoke and sharing materials and helping one another out is really at the heart of surf and skate culture. But I think like unfortunately that's kind of been co-opted by capitalism. Like if you just like, I mean, I don't really know as much about skating, but if I like think about surfing, like I feel like the heart of surfing, like I don't know, like when you look like there's like literally like ancient Hawaiian documents that talk about how like it was just like a pastime where like families could like share this thing together and spend a day at the beach, and it wasn't competitive, and you know, like women and men participated equally and blah blah, right? Like so there's the true roots of these activities are about just like collaboration and inclusion, but then I feel like when capitalism comes into play and makes things cost prohibitive and tries to exclude people and like changes the heart of these things, like that's where that's where there's an issue, right? But then like at like the real like the true essence of them is to be inclusive.
Yeah, like um I think that when big brands and um, people with come in with the idea instead of to join as like a community or just try and meet the culture that they're but instead they try and capitalize off of it. I think it loses a lot, and I don't know. It feels like it loses a lot of. I don't know how to say it. I don't have the word for it, but um, it definitely when you're not in it to make money off of it, or you're not in it, you know, for your own ideas, and when you're in it for kind of like a whole sort of like feel and like again, I feel like I'm using the word community so much, but when you're in it as just a person who's coming to enjoy the sport or the activity or just the other people that participate, I think that that really isn't lost. I think that even though there are brands that want to capitalize off of certain things, um, there's definitely going to always be people involved that really make it worth it. Um, and um, when you like search and you deep dive into these um, different things, I think that you find people that aren't in it just to make money, and you find people that are in it with the same ideas as you, and you really connect with other people. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. It's a really interesting concept to have people like capitalize off of things that once used to be um, so I don't know how to like covet it, or you know, so more of a rebellion thing instead of like something that's super mainstream, like skating or surfing, both of them. Skating used to be super frowned upon, no skate parks, and used to be looked as like a delinquent. Now there's like a skate park every 10 miles, maybe a couple. And while there's these things like, say, a skate park, those are also, it's kind of adapted into, like, people could hate skate parks because somebody came to make money, but in reality, I think that it's really what you make of it. And it just, I don't know, it's very interesting. And while it is kind of sad in a certain way,
yeah, don't forget about what you said about like these ideas, like the idea of like certain like inclusive spaces and like the tension with capitalism, because I want to return to that. But for now, I want to listen to some more music and pick up the chat in a sec. Let's hear this one by Belle and Sebastian that you picked out. This is Like Dylan in the Movies. Okay.
Faces kissing then like a long walk home when the music stops. Take it to mommy, took it to the park when you're on your own. It's a long walk home. Well, if they follow you, don't look back. Like Dylan in the movies, on your own. If they follow you, it's not your money that they're after, boy, it's you. You're easy listening, settle down, all the pillows soft. When they've all gone home, you can concentrate on the ones you love. You can concentrate, hey, now they've gone. But if they follow you, don't look back. Like Dylan in the movie, on your own. If they follow you, it's not your money that they're after, boy, it's you. The pain, you're worth the worry, I would do the same. If we all went back to another time, I will love you over. I will love you over. I will love you. If they follow you, don't look back. Like Dylan in the movie, on your own. If they follow you, tenderly you turn the light on in your room. If they follow you, don't look back. Dylan in the movie, on your own. If they follow you.
Great. So you just heard like Down in the Movies by Belle and Sebastian. Tell me a little bit about that one, Violet.
I love Belle and Sebastian. I found Belle and Sebastian because I used to love the Juno soundtrack. I still do. And there's quite a few Belle and Sebastian songs in the Juno soundtrack. And when I was really young, we always had the CD in the car. And I've recently been getting more into Belle and Sebastian, and I think they're so great. And I love Bob Dylan, and I love that movie, Don't Look Back. I love that documentary, and I think it's just such a sweet song. And it's a love song, so it goes along with the theme.
Yeah. I also got into Belle and Sebastian because of the Juno soundtrack. Shout out to the Juno soundtrack. It's so good. Like, definitely one of the best movie soundtracks, for sure.
Well, actually,
oh,
this is kind of silly. Yeah, really fast. I don't know if you know the song Tree Hugger by Kimya Dawson, but when I was like 10, I think I performed that song with my sister and my mom at our elementary school talent show. Super funny, just weird side thing.
That's so cute. Oh, that's really cute. Okay, wait, I love that. Like, what did you perform as your talent? Like, oh, you performed the song. Like, did everybody perform different things at this talent show? Like,
yeah, there's this kid that there was every year the biggest attraction was this one kid that would do Justin Bieber covers. And there was a bunch of other stuff. I think there was people who did ballet and played piano, and I'm pretty sure there's a rock band that would do. I think they did Don't Stop Believing by Journey one year. Like, it was a really large mix. I think there was shadow puppets. I don't know. It was like a funny elementary school thing that my elementary school always did.
Talk about creative spaces, am I right? Okay. Violet, I'm really curious about something you said. So you talked about, we were talking about this idea of capitalism changing the nature of these inclusive spaces, and you mentioned something about people complaining about skate parks being built, and I'm really curious about this. Hey, sorry, I think we just got booted off for a second. I'm just gonna pick that back up. So Violet, I'm really curious about something you said. So we were talking about this idea of capitalism changing the nature of these inclusive spaces, and you mentioned something sort of offhand about, people complaining about more skate parks being built. And I'm really interested in this idea. So, like, do you know, like, what the debate is about that? Like, are people, like, debating?
So, it was more hypothetical. It was more hypothetical. I don't think anyone could hate more skate parks being built. But I think that, like, I think the idea that people, it's very understandable that people say, like, less skate parks. Let's say, like, a skate brand. Let's say somebody doesn't like the idea that there's nude skate trucks that have, let's say, that are a little bit heavier or more weighted, so you could ride berms better. It's totally hypothetical. I've never heard of that happening. But while it could be seen as, like, people capitalizing off skaters, which it definitely could be, those things can be incorporated back into like the culture of it. And I think that while I don't think I've ever heard of anybody hating a skate park being built. I think that like the idea of like the culture adapting to new things being incorporated is a really interesting idea over time.
So, like, all right, so, like, let's say, like, whatever, like, free market system makes it possible for there to be, like, more developments in skate equipment. I mean, like, this is definitely true. Like, I don't know, like, imagine, like, something, like, crazy new is invented, right? Like, do you feel like, you know, given, like, and also, like, the commodification of skate culture and, like, I don't know, like this, like, literally, like, surf and skate brands are, like, everywhere and everything's, like, super expensive. And I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, that, like, definitely exists. Like, there's, like, a public infatuation with, like, what it looks like to be a surfer and a skater, and it's, like, reflected in mainstream brands as well. Like, do you feel like in the face of that happening, the culture retains this authenticity? Like, do you still feel like you're having an authentic experience, like, when you go to the skate park nonetheless? Or do you feel like it's altered?
Absolutely. I feel like if something really goofy happened, like that my hypothetical idea of skate trucks being some crazy thing happening to skateboards, like decks or something, I think that instead of it becoming like a sore spot for all skaters, I think it would become more of like a joking point. And I think that people could together laugh about something like that instead of hating it. And even if you hated it, it would still be sort of funny. Like, I don't know, it's I think that the authenticity of fringe culture will always stay, you know, the same, even if certain people try and capitalize off of it. I think the original, like, you know, the original meaning behind it will always shine through, and the people that are trying to keep it together and keep the like idea and spirit alive. I don't think it's something that you can really kill that easily.
Yeah, I really hope so. Like, what you're saying about skaters joking about it, like, it reminds me of surfing. Like, when I'm out surfing with my friends at home and, like, some kooky people come, like, some, like, super, like these, like, bro-y guys on wave storms. It's, like, Chad and Brad, and, like, they think they're just, like, gonna do so good, and then they, like, can't paddle into waves, and they've got their wave storm, like, poking out of their drop top, and it's like, yeah, like, people are gonna make fun of them. Like, you're right. Like, it kind of, like, it does kind of become a joke. Like, as these cultures get more commodified, like, the people who, I guess, like, who have, like, been participating in it, like, kind of see through it. Like, I feel like, yeah, like, that is what happens.
Yeah, exactly. I remember one time, me and my friend Ula were surfing at Ocean Beach, and these super jock dudes all pulled up in this truck and like saw us walking up to the beach and clearly thought we were real silly or something. So when we were out on the waves, she goes for this wave, and this guy totally tries to drop in on her, and she catches the wave. She's an amazing surfer, and she catches the wave and comes back, and he's like, "Bro, you stole my wave!" Like, God, and like totally blows her off and gets real mad at her for like the entire time that he was out there. But he doesn't go for one wave, and like after that he doesn't like go for anything, even though we like moved on and moved away from them. It kind of just became a joke for us, because I think it's just, I think it's real silly, but there's always going to be people like that, that are gonna, you know, not be the desired people in your in the side. But I think that it really is something that overall will not like stick. and these super jockey dudes aren't gonna like always be there, or always even be out in the water. And we still had a great time. Um, and I don't know. I feel like that kind of uh, can go for like all things. I think that um, like even though there's going to be somebody super sucky, that really will not. It won't really shatter um, what the foundation that's been there. It's just I don't know. It's something that you can just kind of blow off.
Yeah, I think that's true. And now I'm kind of like thinking about your zine, and I'm like, it's not like it's not like the use of social media and like every publication being online has like entirely corrupted like your ability to pursue that creative vision. And like in some ways it can even help it. Like you're able to have an Instagram for it, and like, you know, like you're kind of like able to like disseminate your message on these platforms more while still like retaining some of those like authentic zine qualities, you know, that have been present since zine started.
Exactly. I mean, I think that again, like even with zine culture, I think I there's this super cool artist called Buzz Blur who um, lives in rural Arkansas and has been working on zines. And another like weird fringe like culture inside of zine culture is called mail art, and he's been involved in that for probably like 60 years or something. And he told this story in one of these zines. He was interviewed for one of the zines that I read, and somebody called his art quick copy bull. And and while he hurt his feelings, it didn't stop him. And I think that it definitely like there's gonna be somebody sucky, and there's always gonna like it's interesting how social media has changed, like not even zine culture but show culture and like surf culture. Like the spot that was your super secret spot maybe shared on some large creator's TikTok, and all of a sudden there's all these, you know, tourists there. And well, you know, I think that it's interesting. But like flyers these days, if I want to go to a show, I'm not going to go look at a signpost anymore. I'm not going to go scour the streets. I'm probably going to go on social media if somebody mentions it, and I'm going to go to the like band's Instagram and look at the flyer. And while I could say that social media wrecked shows, my alarm's going off. Well, I could say social media like wrecked shows. I think that that's just not true. I'm gonna go and try to shut that alarm off. Sorry, I have no idea how that happened.
No worries.
Right now. I'm pretty much done with that. Like,
no, that's. I think that's totally. It's totally interesting to think about like the benefits and drawbacks of social media and how, you know, they impact these alternative cultures like zines and skating and surfing. And I think what you said about TikTokers, you know, making like blowing the secret on your favorite spot, like I feel like that's definitely something that can happen, which like might be like kind of annoying, right? Because then you get some of those bro-y people there who you're like, like I don't really want you here, but then like maybe it could be a joke, right? So that's like one version of it happening. But I think the other version of it happening is that there's just more information, and like it can make these spaces more accessible to people who like may not have known about them before, like, and so like that's kind of the trade-off.
Definitely, like I think that a lot of stuff like that, if you don't know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, surfing or skating or, you know, zines can be kind of inaccessible for certain people if you don't know like the bookstore or the website, or, you know, if you don't know that surf spot where all the cool people hang out, or the skate park where like all the cool people hang out. I think that it can be kind of inaccessible, and it kind of pushes people away. And so for there to be like social media, which does show a lot of really cool people, you know, it makes it more like for lack of a better word, accessible, it draws in a lot of people, good and bad, and it definitely is the drawback and trade-off of that sort of stuff. But I think there's just an equal positive and negative there.
Yeah, I agree. And just like to circle back to something you were saying earlier about diversity and how like, you know, creative spaces are improved by diversity. I think like, well, diversity is improved by social media because, you know, people who like might not have as much money and like people with like different ethnicities and different gender identities, like they can find out about these niche spaces because of social media, and they, you know, they might be the people who in particular might not know someone who knows someone who knows someone because like, you know, like they're like these different groups have been pushed out of these cultures historically. So yeah, I think what you said is spot on. Yeah, I want to get back to this conversation more, but I think in the meantime, let's listen to another song. Your next one was My Valuable Hunting Knife by Guided by Voices. Let's hear it.
I want to start a new life with my valuable hunting knife. She will shine like a new girl, and I want to shout out love to the world. Hit it. Everything I think about, everything I talk about, you don't know, like the you don't know. Days will turn into nights with my valuable hunting knife. If will I rush through the tears, and if will I lose it to peel over the years. Come on, everything I think about, everything I talk about, you don't know, like the you don't know. I'll never know. I'll never know. I'll never know. I will run. I will hide. I will. I will run. I will hide. I'll never know. I'll never know.
Okay, you just heard My Valuable Hunting Knife by Guided by Voices. Violet, is there a reason why you picked that one?
I thought it went along kind of with the theme. I won't say it's as big of a love song, but I found Guided by Voices by a friend of mine. I was driving home after a show, and he was like, "Are you gonna go to the Guided by Voices tour when they come in town?" And I was like, "I don't know who that is. Like, I don't know. Am I missing out?" And so I go and I fall in love with Guided by Voices, and now I think it's one of my top songs of the year. And I think I ended up missing the tour date because I just didn't know. And it turns out my dad saw them back in the 80s. They have like 1,000 albums. But they come out with like 2 albums a year. But yeah, I think it's super great. I don't know. It's not really a love song, so I won't say that it goes along with the theme as well, but it is a song that I really love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't it funny how, like, you'll just have interactions with friends like that, and, like, you'll be like, wow, like, mind blown. Trajectory of my life entirely changed because this person introduced me to this song. Like, a friend of mine, who I grew up surfing with, like he and I would like share music, and I just remember like going home at night from the beach with a list of songs that he'd shared with me, and it was always like the most exciting thing, like, I don't know, to bounce ideas off of people. That's what's fun about this show too, is like there's like when people come on, I get to hear their takes on, I get to hear their crush songs, and then I'm like, oh, I gotta add this to my list.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think music's so awesome. Right next to me, actually, right here, I have a stereo setup. I listen to a lot of CDs and cassette tapes, and I think music is a huge thing that people connect over. And for a couple people's birthdays, I bought them cassette decks, and I'll make them like a cassette tape with songs that I really like. And I think that sharing music is just it's something that is very like sacred and special. And 1 second you may not know the song, and the next second you're blasting the song in the car with your friends, and you know all the words. And it's just funny how that sort of stuff works.
Yeah, like music is like the awesomest way to have a collective experience. I wonder, how do you think that social media has impacted music?
I mean, I think that social media has impacted music in a really amazing way. I mean, there are some downsides, but I think that artists that couldn't get signed, even as early as like MySpace, artists have been able to find a platform that they wouldn't have been able to have otherwise. Like, say, like Lily Allen, for example, she started on MySpace, and I don't know if that, you never know if people's demo tapes will surface if they don't have a platform to share them on, because the music industry is really hard to get into. But with like, say, Spotify, even though it could be seen as an evil, which it definitely is to a certain extent, like most streaming platforms, it's also a way for artists who don't have a way of getting signed or sharing their music otherwise. They now have a way to do that. And, well, sometimes I'll see a favorite song of mine blow up on TikTok, and it'll be all over my For You page for weeks, and now I don't really want to listen to it as much. I think that it's actually way cooler that so many people are falling in love with the song that I fell in love with, even though it's not as great for me to listen to it anymore. It's really awesome that other people like it. So
Yeah, it's just like,
I think that social media has really impacted all that sort of stuff.
yeah, I think what you said, so true. It's really like an increase in accessibility, and that's so important for the reasons that we talked about earlier. So I'm really curious about, I guess like I want to talk a little bit more about your zine, because I think zines are really interesting because of the way that they like mesh, like, I guess, like different forms of creativity. And so like, like I know that you hosted an event for your zine. Like, did that like incorporate live music too? And like, how would you say that like all of these different, forms of media intersect with the work that you're doing?
So every zine minus one that I've done has had an interview with a band that I really enjoyed, which I've been really lucky to interview bands that I really like. And even in my first zine, which I didn't interview a band for, I did like a couple pages on this music genre called Zamrock that I really liked at the time. And I was really lucky when we came out of COVID to be able to meet other people in the Bay Area that had zines and then actually become friends with them. So my now friends Cole and Liam run a zine called Control Zine, Control Bay Area, and they've hosted 3 shows that I helped work the merch table for. And then for the 4th show, we did I finally actually got to get on the bill as a headliner for, not as a performer, but as somebody who's selling zines. So we did a show at 94 Gilman, a historic music spot in Berkeley, which started in 1986. We got to do a show there because I'd been volunteering there for a while, and I got to know people who, were the bookers there. And so I talked to a bunch of bands that I really liked, and Cole and Liam talked to bands that they really liked, and we got to put together a bill of bands that were really important to us. But at the same time, most of the shows that Control has hosted are usually benefit shows. So they've done benefits for fighting fires. They did a harm reduction show where they did a show that was to benefit harm reduction, and then for the show that we hosted, which was called Buck Troll, as a merge of both of our zine names, that was for a camp called Camp Okaizu, who had a huge fire a couple years back, and the camp was for kids who've had or currently have cancer, and so the show was it was actually in September, which is Child Cancer Awareness Month, and the show was to raise money for Camp Okaizu, and we raised $1,500, which was super exciting. I had no idea how much money we'd make or how many people would show up, and we got a really great turnout, and it was really exciting. I don't know, I got the biggest, full body high from it, because I just got so excited by seeing all my friends come together and, volunteer at merch or volunteer at Gilman, because it's all volunteer run, to help volunteer running the door. And it was a really cool, again, community experience that was really awesome. And it did intersect music and zines and art all into one. And it was a very amazing experience that I'm so happy to have been able to be there for.
Right on. Music and zines and art and community and raising awareness, all the things, Violet, all the things.
It was actually one of the best experiences.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. What do you see for the future of your zine? More stuff like that?
Well, currently I have to work on college applications, and so I've been
those are a bummer.
Real lazy about the worst, but the next one I have some things that I'm really excited for. I have some art that I'm really excited for that my friends are doing, and some really excited poems that my friends have made, and I'm probably going to put more photography in it, and I'm looking to do more interviews with bands and actually other zines. I have a bunch of ideas just floating around that I can't stop thinking about, that are always, milling in my mind, that I'll write down in my journal and then I'll finally use someday. But yeah, I don't know, I'm very excited for the future of my zine, and also my friends' zines, and Withitgirl, and all of those. It's just a very exciting sort of time in my life and everyone else's. I don't know. It's
Me
awesome.
too. I'm really excited too. I can't wait. I can't wait for your zine. I can't wait for the future of all this grassroots rad stuff that's happening. I think let's listen to one more song and we'll wrap things up for today. Which one do you want to hear? Suffragette City or Cracked?
Let's hear Cracked by the Tides. I love that
All right,
song.
let's do Cracked. Yeah.
If you and I were stand between us, will this murder never leave us? I can't explain, but that's too bad. I can't refrain, that makes you mad. The same is cracked and so am I. I can't remember how to die. I can't remember how to live in these days. It must be a gift. When I get lonely, baby, my heart, I fly to Jupiter. In my mind, I think of you. It's easy to ask. I look at you. It's nothing. I lie in bed on Sunday morning. Through the bars, the world is calling. I'm in the years, I'm out of time, but wanting you is not a crime. Human feelings out of season, heard them call it age of reason. No more freedom, no more hope, I slip my wrists and that's no joke. When I get lonely, pain in my heart, I fly to Jupiter. In my mind, I think of you, it's easy to ask. I look at you, it's nothing. I was stand between us, will this murder never leave us? I can't explain, but that's too bad. I can't refrain, that makes you mad. The stage is cracked and so am I. I can't remember how to die. I can't remember how to live in these days. It must be a gift. When I get lonely, playing in my heart, I fly to Jupiter. In my mind, I think of you. It's in your eyes, I look at you, it's nothing. When I get lonely, playing in my heart, I fly to Jupiter. In my mind, I think of you. It's in your eyes, I look at you, it's nothing. When I get lonely, playing in my heart, I fly to Jupiter. In my mind, I think of you. It's in your eyes, I look at you, it's nothing. When I get lonely, playing in my heart, I fly to Jupiter. In my mind, I think of you, it's in your eyes, I look at you, it's nothing. When I get lonely, playing in my heart, I fly to Jupiter. In my mind, I think of you, it's in your eyes, I look at you, it's nothing. When I get lonely, playing in my heart, I fly to Jupiter.
Epic. You just heard Cracked by the Tights. Violet, all this music makes me want to go to a show ASAP. I'm itching for the weekend now.
Me as well. I'm very excited. I don't think most weekends I go to shows, but this weekend I think I'm gonna kick back and chill and probably grind out some college applications.
Yeah,
unfortunately,
dude. I hear that. I'm like, get me away from my laptop. I want to be outside.
Exactly. I feel so pent up, but I'll be outside. I'll be milling about soon. Hopefully, I know I get Friday off for Veterans Day, so I'm really excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Before we say goodbye, what's some advice you have to if you could give your middle school self advice from like senior Violet who is applying to college, what would you tell middle school Violet?
You'll find people who you'll genuinely enjoy soon enough, and stick with the people that you have, because you'll still be friends with them in 5 years. But for right now, hold on, because soon enough, there'll be people who enjoy the same stuff you do.
There's more. That's the thing about this life thing is like, God, you better stick around for it because it might get really good soon. Thanks so much for chatting with me, Violet.
You'll find that crush.
Yeah, go find that crush. Oh, epic. There's so much to live for, Violet. Thanks so much for chatting with me. I super enjoyed this convo.
Of course. Thank you so much, Maija. This is super awesome.
Bye.
Bye.